Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, you'll be listening to a hypnosis session that was created for a lady that had experienced feelings of shame and guilt linked to an event in her life that she regretted and felt that it was affecting her relationship in the present. So in this session, what you're going to hear is what's known in NLP terms as a reframe. You want to give a empowering meaning to an event rather than a disempowering meaning. And the meaning that she related to what happened was that she must be punished with the guilt and with the shame rather than the lessons that she learned from it. And she did indeed learn the lessons from it because it changed her behavior from that point onwards. So it wasn't a recurring issue. And therefore, the big opportunity is to almost treat what happened as a near miss, because it could have had worse consequences than it actually did. But if anyone from an event that they regret are able to take the wisdom and the lessons from something and then apply that to make things better in the future, well, then actually even a negative event can be empowering if it's looked through the lens of how can this serve me? How can I benefit from this? How can it benefit the things that are important to me? Just as a quick recap, there are a couple of things worth sharing here. The main function of guilt is to influence future behavior. So if you're feeling guilty about something that happened a long time ago and you're still doing those kind of things, then that's why you still have the guilt. If, however, you still have the guilt and you're not doing those things anymore that you're thinking about, guilt has no longer it served its purpose. It's no longer needed in that way. So looking at guilt as has it actually changed behavior is a good way to kind of move away from guilt. Shame is normally a feeling that you've fallen short of your core values. So there's things that you really value and are important to you, and you've kind of fallen below those standards of what you value most. And again, so long as you take on board that feeling of, I won't compromise on those values again, and you take corrective measures, then even shame can be beneficial if it's looked at through the right lens. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling, well, this is very useful, but this is for someone else, there will be a link nearby where you can book a free 30-minute consultation call to explore working with me directly, so we can actually build a session with you and your circumstances. And obviously, if you're listening to this, as is every single one of my sessions, it's 100% confidential. So although you will hear my words, you won't hear anything from the client. And at no point do I ever reveal names or details. A client could tell me they've murdered someone and that would not go anywhere. Everything I do is completely confidential. The only exception to that, and it's worth me being fully transparent, is if I do a free session for someone and they're happy to be featured, let's say in a YouTube video, in which case that's because I have their explicit consent to share that session to a wider public. If I'm working with clients one-to-one, confidentiality is paramount. And even in my podcast, you won't be able to find out who I'm working with just by listening to the podcast. It's that level of confidential. So find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a feeling of resourceful relaxation. And as you exhale, just get a sense that you're able to relax and release tension from your body in that outward breath. As you breathe in and breathe out, notice that with your eyes closed, you're able to pay more of your attention to the sound of my voice. Position your body in whichever way needed to enable you to become more comfortable now. That's it. As you breathe in and breathe out, give permission to yourself to let go. You can let go of any tension around your eyelids, around your forehead, around your jaw, your neck, your shoulders. Just breathe in and breathe out and allow yourself to let go. Releasing that tension. Allowing any stress, anxieties or worries to leave your body in that outward breath. As you continue to breathe in and breathe out, as your physical bodies relax, I want you to get a sense that your mind and your imagination is becoming more active. I want you to get a sense that you've got the ability to access a memory in powerful ways. I want you to imagine you're flicking through the pages of an old-fashioned photo album. And in that photo album, I want you to imagine that you're seeing photos that you took while aboard a cruise ship. As you look at those pictures, I want you to remember where you were when you took them. And then I want you to imagine that you're now back in that body, feeling what you felt back then on that cruise ship, only this time the cruise ship is completely empty. Just you and your partner. And I want you to imagine looking into the eyes of your partner and feeling a strong bond of intimacy. A feeling of warmth, a feeling of love, a feeling of connection. I want you to imagine that perhaps you're holding hands or there is some element of physical touch. And then what I want you to do is to imagine that perhaps there is a sun lounger or a chair or something near. I want you to imagine that you are on one of those chairs or loungers, your partner is on the other, and perhaps while still touching, you could imagine what it would be like to fall asleep on that cruise ship while still feeling that connection with your partner. I will count down from 5 to 1, and you will imagine what it would be like to fall asleep on that cruise ship while still feeling the sensation of touch with your partner. Starting to count 5. As you breathe in and breathe out, just notice that you can release all the tension around your neck and your shoulders. 4. As you breathe in, imagine breathing in deeper more than you would need, and then as you exhale for longer than you normally would, releasing that tension in your body. 3. Arms getting limp, loose, heavy, releasing that tension now. 2. Focus on your legs all the way down to your toes. I want you to feel that your limbs are like that of a puppet without any strings, just limp and loose, just there. And then 1, just imagine what it would be like to fall asleep there on that cruise ship, on that deck. And in doing so, with your eyes closed, just imagine that you are going to go deep into your imagination. And I want you to imagine observing yourself do something that you would then later regret. You're not in your body, you're the observer. I want you to observe a timeline, a sequence of events that led up to something that, with the benefit of hindsight, you would rather you didn't do. Perhaps you can observe yourself with the first contact, the first time that perhaps you responded to some kind of communication, the way in which your facial expressions changed depending on the content of some of that communication. You can almost read your inner thoughts of what you were thinking back then and how you were feeling. I want you to get a sense that in observing this version of you, you are able to elicit a strategy for excitement. I want you to get a sense that whatever happened, happened, but there are clues within that that could be replicated in the present time. Maybe it was something that you felt access a different side of your personality. Maybe it was the fact that there were elements that needed to be secret or discreet. Maybe there were other things. And I want you to get a sense of you being an observer enables you to treat what happened like reconnaissance. You're able to get all of the knowledge, all of the insight as to what creates such levels of excitement that you would compromise on your values, and also accept the suggestion that if excitement was created then excitement can be created again in the future. The recipe always works. I want you to get a sense that if you're able to take all of the knowledge, all of the insight from that moment and apply it in the future, but knowing what you now know, could you put that knowledge, that information to work for you rather than against you, to empower you rather than disempower you? I want you to follow the sequence all the way through, but then imagine a different outcome where the near miss wasn't a near miss but was a crash. I want you to think of perhaps 1, 2, or 3 different scenarios that would have led to a different outcome that would have been detrimental and negative for you, perhaps even costing you your relationship. Who would have needed to have a conversation with who? What information would need to have been discovered or found out? And I want you to get a sense that in this multiverse of infinite parallel universes, there are many different situations in which case there would have been a direct consequence to that thing that you then later regretted. I want you to imagine observing those different parallel universes and seeing that it would have taken your life in an entirely different direction. Perhaps changed the relationship that you had with your friends, your family, where you were working at the time. I want you to get a sense that what actually happened was a near miss, perhaps with the benefit of hindsight, mistakes were made, but you didn't know them to be mistakes at the time. But I want you to get a sense that you're able to take all of the value of that near miss without experiencing the crash. And I want you to get a sense of, back then, the emotions that you felt had a purpose. If back then you felt guilt, that means that you valued what you had. And guilt was designed to influence your future behavior. And if it did that, guilt is no longer necessary because the guilt served its purpose. And perhaps there was shame. But I want you to entertain an idea. Given the choice of experiencing shame, that means that you have values, are aware of your values, and know what you did fell short of your standards that relate to your values. That feeling shame is a better outcome than feeling shameless, meaning that there is no personal responsibility, or you're not even aware of your own values. And if it's the case that shame is more desirable than shamelessness, then the function of shame is for you to figure out ways to meet your needs without compromising on your values. I want you to get a sense that there is so much to learn from what happened. There always is in a near miss. So in that near miss, take all of the value, all of the knowledge, all of the insight, and then ask yourself the question, knowing what I now know, what would I do differently? And then replay the exact moment with that new knowledge. And I want you to get a sense that what happened back then wouldn't happen again because of the wisdom and knowledge and experience that you now have. And as you replay it the way it would be if the same series of events happened now, but with this new knowledge, notice that it would take a different direction. What happened back then wouldn't happen now, which means there is no need for the guilt and shame because it's already served its purpose. The real value from that near miss is figuring out what your emotional needs are, and then realizing that when your needs are met within a relationship, there is no need to meet that need outside of a relationship. I want you to get a sense, remember that excitement, that energy, that intensity that you felt back then, and then figure out that there must be a way to replicate this feeling within the relationship. And I want you to imagine returning to that cruise ship, but still being there asleep on that deck, and then thinking about what it would be like if this same needs, the needs that you have for intimacy, connection, understanding, and affection, if those were met within your relationship, what would that look like? What would that be like? And what conversation would be necessary to engineer it? I want you to get a sense that what happened in the past required communication for it to occur. And therefore it stands to reason that whatever else you want in your future will also require communication for it to occur. If you went back in time and took out all of the communication, that thing that you regret couldn't have happened. So if communication can enable you to do something that falls short of your values, it stands to reason that communication could do something that meets your need while not compromising on your values. And I want you to imagine that you're having a conversation with your partner. And I want you to imagine that feeling of connection, the feeling of being loved or feeling comfortable is still there. Feel it within you as you look at their face. But more importantly, imagine the words you could say that would cultivate in a conversation where you explore your partner's needs and you articulate your own needs. And you work collaboratively to discover if there is a way that both of your needs can be met. And you can explore all different variations of this conversation in different locations at different times, different facial expressions, different voice tonalities, different ways of articulating and listening. Because all this really is your mind being playful and creative to move towards a more desirable future. Sometimes dreams are just dreams, but sometimes dreams reveal our fears. And you could look at those fears and just ignore them, or you could use those fears to take preemptive action to avoid a self-fulfilling prophecy. Sometimes our fears reveal what could happen if we don't change course. And therefore, if that dream is a glimpse of an undesirable future, isn't that the equivalent of seeing another plane on the radar so that you could take corrective action to avoid a collision? Near misses from the past could also be near misses of the future. But knowing what you now know, allow your heart to open. Allow that creative, curious, inquisitive part to explore how to meet those needs with the person you love the most. And then imagine that as a result of one, two, or many different conversations or forms of communication, I want you to imagine that you can observe yourself, maybe weeks or months from now, having all of your needs met within your relationship. See yourself with the person you want to be with that excitement, with that intimacy, with that connection, with that affection. And realize that it took communication to facilitate it. As you open your heart, realize that you have all of the resources required to communicate and listen, to express your needs but listen to needs, and trust that your unconscious will provide you with ideas and inspiration for those needs to be met. then find yourself back on that cruise ship, on that deck, perhaps still holding the hand or still touching your partner. And then I want you to imagine giving your partner a hug there on the deck of that cruise ship with no one else around. Feeling that connection, feeling that intimacy, feeling that warmth, and realizing that this is important, and realizing also that you can instigate as well as reciprocate. And then realize that the cruise ship, the past, the future is all just thoughts within thoughts, dreams within dreams, ideas within ideas, and actually you're listening to me firmly in the present, in your physical body right now. Very soon I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken feeling resourceful, optimistic, but more importantly, with no shame and no guilt, but instead with curiosity, with wisdom, and with tenacity to establish a new future on your terms, where your needs are met, but so are your partners. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, get a sense that you're in your own physical body right now as I count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.